Alabama's got some more help on the way moving in very, very soon. Meanwhile, I beach hair and don't care.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, the University of Alabama has some more help on the way coming in very, very soon. They'll be moving into the dorms. We're only, 99 days out from football season now. And so things are looking good, man. I'm getting psyched.
Yeah, actually, over the weekend, pretty exciting to me. I mean, since we talk about every possible detail of the football program, but 7 new Alabama football players moved into Bryant Hall over the weekend, and that's when football season's getting closer. But 7 new players that weren't here in spring practice, they are officially here now. As we record this, they've already moved in. I'm talking about the freshman Keon Keely from Tampa, the pass rusher. He is rooming with Connor Tulty, which is like, wow, you don't often see the pass rusher rooming with the place kicker. But Keon Keely is rooming with Connor Tulty. They've moved in this weekend. And then Yanze Pierre and Richard Young, with Yanze Pierre, the linebacker from Eufaula, Richard Young, the running back from Lehigh Acres, Florida. They're rooming together, and they moved in this weekend. Not sure portals. My understanding is the portal guys are also living in Bryant Hall. Not sure what the roomie situation is, but Trey Amos from Louisiana, the kid from UAB, Jalen Key, the safety, he moved in, as well as quarterback Tyler Buckner arrived this weekend and moved in. So all 7 of those new Tiders that did not participate in spring practice, they are all officially now here. And they will begin what I would call unorganized workouts with their teammates immediately. My understanding is most of the roster has returned to Tuscaloosa over the weekend, and some will be returning later this week. But they're all back arriving, and really June 1st is sort of the start of another off-season workout kind of thing. It's a lot of it's unorganized, a lot of it's players doing it on their own, but they're all back together as a team this week, so that's pretty exciting.
So of those 7 guys, who excites you the most? I mean, and you can't see Connor Tulty. That's easy.
Yeah.
I'm excited about Connor Tulty, but I mean, obviously, unless something happens to Will Reichert, I mean, he's not going to be making much of a dent this year. But I mean, Yanze Pierre, Keon Keely, of course, Tyler Buckner, Key, Amos, Richard Young. I mean, which one of those guys are you most excited about? I want to say Keon Keely, and I think that's the easy answer, but for me, it's kind of Yanze Pierre.
Well, I think there's a long-term and a short-term answer, right? I mean, for me, long-term, it's Keon Keely. I think he'll end up being, I really believe, I mean, in terms of just crazy predictions, I think Keon Keely is going to be near Will Anderson level great. I mean, I think Keon Keely has a chance to be one of our greats, much like Will Anderson. So in the long term, it's him. But this year, 2023, he's got to be dealing with these other guys at outside linebacker in the outside linebacker room that are older veteran players. He's going to have a hard time beating out guys like Quandarius Robinson, Keanu Coate. He's going to have a hard time beating out them, to say nothing of Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell. So I don't know how much of Keon Keely we'll see this fall. I think we'll actually see quite a bit of him, honestly. I do think he's going to leapfrog some level of players and get on the field this fall. I really believe that. In the long term, he'll be a star. Short term, my answer is going to be Jalen Key, the safety from UAB. I think he's got the clearest path to being a starter or part-time starter in some personnel packages. But boy, that answer could be really wrong if Tyler Buckner ends up winning the starting quarterback spot. And I do think that that's something that's very possible. I don't predict it myself. I would rank his chances third behind Simpson and Milroe. I do. But I also think there's a real chance that Tyler Buckner becomes a starting quarterback, which means he's the answer to this question, period, because the starting quarterback obviously carries a ton of weight, and a ton of the season expectations then will be on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think that Buckner is truly the easy answer if you believe he's going to be the starter. And,
Right.
you know, I go on a show in Montgomery on Wednesdays, and that the host was saying, hey, I just feel like Buckner's going to be the starter, because why else would you bring him in? And I still just can't wrap my head around he's a lock for the starter job. I just can't, especially when he hadn't been here in the spring. I know Tommy Rees knows him. I know he's been through a lot of practices with him and all those things, but I just can't see it. And so, therefore, and Yanzi Pierre, for me, yeah, you're right. You really need to break this down in short term and long term. But for whatever reason, I mean, this Yanzi Pierre just feels like he's going to be a superstar to me. I mean, I got a feeling about him. It's one of those gut feelings that is usually gas, but you know what? I'll take it. So now, before we go to break, Jimmy, I do want to give a shout out to the softball team. They lose the first game to Northwestern. By the time we wrap this podcast up and I get it posted, the game will be tipping off or kicking off or pitching off or whatever you do to softball to start it off. And so we'll know probably very shortly if Alabama will be moving on to the College World Series. I'm going to say this. I'm so appreciative of him. Montana Fouts probably deserves a statue. But I don't feel like this team can win it all. I think it'd be a thrill to get to Oklahoma City. I think that'd be wonderful. But I mean, I just don't think this is the kind of team that can win it all. It wouldn't shock me if they did make it to Oklahoma City if they're 2-out, because I just don't see it. But if they make it, that's what matters.
Yeah, preseason expectations weren't super high for this group. Alabama didn't even get out of the regionals a year ago. They lost in the regionals, didn't make it to a super regional, lost in the regionals at home, and then several prominent players hit the portal. And Alabama didn't have the portal success that you'd have liked to have seen. So this roster, this team, the preseason expectations weren't really there for this group. It'd be kind of a shock, frankly, if they made it all the way to the World Series. I think the fact that they're one game short, whether they win it or not, and again, we don't know. We're taping it before Game 3. So as y'all are listening to this, y'all probably know the outcome, and we don't just yet. But I'll say, regardless of that outcome, getting within one game of the World Series for this group, impressive. That they were not. I think they were picked to finish 5th in the SEC, and they finished somewhere around there. In terms of the standings in the league. I think if anything, they've outperformed reasonable expectations, just getting within one game of the World Series. And they need a big summer in the portal to be nationally elite next year, because they lose Montana Fouts and Ashley Prangy and Allie Shipman, and it's going to be very tough for them to replace that leadership and those 3 clutch performers. You mute even at the beach. You mute even at the beach. It's a beach thing as well. Still muted.
I mean, I'm so mad at myself. I had it all set up for the live read, and I was actually live reading, and then I was like, "Why is Jimmy interrupting me in my live read?" God, I'm at the beach. I haven't showered today. I've already played putt-putt. I mean,
solid.
I know it's my bad, y'all. I'm sorry. This is. I know people still think I'm doing this on purpose. I swear, if they only knew. Anyway. If you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar, Elva. That's a Built bar. You got to try these things. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, which I have not at the beach, but I'm going to when I get back, you don't want to compromise on taste. Well, these are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing, you won't think they're good for you. You got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, not screwing around chocolate, not some kind of funky, made in a lab chocolate, 100% real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream. I'm not sure how Built does it, but they do it and it works. You can go get them at Walmart. You can get them at Lifetime Fitness. That's where I get mine. You can get them at Sam's Club. You can get them at Amazon. You can get them at Built.com. You can go to all these places. If you're close to a Sam's Club, just run in there, grab you a 13-bar box of the hit flavor like brownie butter puff. My God, that sounds amazing. Anyway, go check out built.com. You can get them anywhere. They're delicious. You'll love them. The rest of the week, Jimmy, we're going to be working on your countdown. These next 2 segments, we're going to be working on your countdown. So let's go ahead and get to your countdown. And on your countdown right now, we're going to go to a quarterback, Dylan Lonergan. And very excited about Dylan Lonergan. Think he's a super athlete. Jimmy, will he ever play baseball at Alabama?
He's on the baseball roster at Alabama. I think if you even go to rolltide.com, you'll see that and pull up the baseball roster. He's on it. But to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure this is true, I don't believe he has practiced, and I know he hasn't played, but I don't even believe he practiced with the baseball team this spring. As every player that's on football scholarship, that your obligation, you're going to school for free and NIL and everything else, right? So I think, you have this grand plan, and it's going to be football and baseball, but football keeps you so busy, it's hard to get to the hobby, which for him is baseball. I also think it could be injury related. He suffered an injury playing football last fall. And while he was healthy enough to participate in football practice where there's no contact, I'm not 100% sure he was cleared to pitch in games, and that's what he is. He's a pitcher. He is an extremely good baseball player. I know baseball would love to have him out there. Maybe next season it'll happen once things settle down for him and he's healthy. But let's talk about Dylan Lonergan, the football player. He had a really impressive spring. I've talked about some other freshmen as having kind of a buzzworthy spring. Dylan definitely did. I even had a source close to the program tell me that the first few days of spring practice, he was throwing it as well as any of them. They knew they didn't know he'd be this good. So that's the kind of buzz he was creating. Then all of you guys saw him on A-Day. He played before Holstein. He played well. He has really good command of the field. I don't think we should be as surprised. I know to some extent we are. I personally had a little higher expectation for Holstein. I thought it would be Holstein 1 and Lonergan 2, in this group. And so far, it's the other way around, to be honest. Right now, Lonergan is a little bit ahead of Holstein. Now, we'll see if that holds for 4 or 5 years. Who's to say that it will? But for now, he is. We shouldn't have been surprised because as Bryce showed us coming from modern day, Dylan played at a top-notch, big program in Georgia. And I think that just well prepared him for the SEC, whereas, Eli's down in Zachary, Louisiana. He played against, that's not like a 1A school. But Dylan Lonergan played big school football in Georgia against maybe the best competition there is in the U.S. I would put it up there. I call that Atlanta perimeter high school area as good as the big schools in South Florida, as good as the big schools in the Dallas and Houston area. That's how good it is. And Dylan was a multi-year starter. I think the stage, the complexity of SEC football, playing against that level of competition, playing with those elite receivers against elite DBs, I think he was just well prepared for that. That's probably why he got off to such a good start this spring. We always talk about, Luke, the learning curve, the kind of the adjustment it takes. I think with Dylan, there was probably less adjustment than most, and therefore he got off to the good start. Very similar to a lot of guys from IMG Academy who practice against these other elite prospects every day. They show up to the SEC, and a lot of them, like a J.C. Latham, like a Tyler Booker, is true freshmen, when most linemen redshirt. And I think in part that's because of playing in a college level type system at IMG. They just show up well prepared to deal with all that you have to deal with learning to play in the SEC, the speed at which the game moves. So Dylan made a quick adjustment. This is why he's ranked where he is on my ranking of the roster. I have him at 69, whereas a lot of the other true freshmen who are most likely redshirting were in the 80s and 70s. Dylan's ahead of most of them, guys, because as crazy as this sounds, I really believe it. There's a chance Dylan Lonergan wins the starting job this fall. And I'm dead serious about that. There's a chance. Now, when I say there's a chance, I don't mean there's a great chance or even a good chance, but there is a chance. He was that impressive. And frankly, if Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Buckner, none of them show you that they're ready to play, they'll probably give Lonergan a look. Now, I do think the three ahead of him have to fail to some extent before it happens. But I have Dylan Lonergan up here at this spot, Luke, because I don't rule out the possibility that he's the starting quarterback this fall, and also because of all the freshmen, he had one of the buzziest performances of the spring practices.
I like Dilligan. I think that might be his new name, Dilligan's Island.
It sounds right. It sounds, even though I knew it was wrong when I said it, because I was trying to say Dylan Lonergan and make it into one word accidentally. But when I said it, I'm like, that feels right. Y'all know who I was talking about. Even if we were doing another player and I said Dilligan, you'd be going,
that's Dylan Lonergan.
That must be Lonergan's nickname. And it's not, to my knowledge, although it'd be cool if it was.
It should be. I think it might be from this point forward. All right.
Here.
All right, Jimmy, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about another one on your countdown in my DJ Khaled voice. Another one. And we're back. So now we're going to go from a quarterback to a guy who protects the quarterbacks. That's Wilkin Formby. He's got his name is like a word jumble to me. You don't see a lot of Wilkins and you don't know a lot of Formbys. So, but
there's no E. There's no E in there too. It's all I's on the first name, Wilken, W-I-L-K-I-N, Wilkin Formby. Another player that had a good spring. Let me tell you all about where Wilken started out. And I say started out, let's say he quickly in spring practices was the number 2 right tackle. And if you're on the second team offensive line, guess what? You play in the games. The red shirt's out. Because if you're on the second team offensive line, Nick Saban, the way he's done it for years and years and years, and it's not going to change, is late in the game when the game's decided and he says, okay, the game's decided, he empties the bench. The second team offensive line comes out in mass. And as you know, we're going to blow out more than 4 opponents this fall with Nick Saban's Alabama. We're going to win 6 or 7 games at the very least by a lot of points. So the second team offensive line will play. That's why Wilkin Formby is even ahead of Lonergan on this list. That's why he's at 68 on the ranking countdown, because Wilkin Formby, I would say, spent 2/3 of spring practice as a second team right tackle, meaning, hey, he's playing this fall, which is great. That's a great sign. It's promising. Again, not a contender to start, not pushing a starter, but if you're clearly on the second team and playing in most of the games, even at the end, you're building some experience and you're launching a campaign to maybe start in 2024. But here's the thing. Right before the end of spring practice, maybe he's hurt, I don't know. I just know that right before the end of McVay became the number 2 right tackle, knocking Wilken down to the 3s. So I don't know if that's temporary. I don't know if Wilken is going to beat out Miles again, but whoever's that second team right tackle is certainly going to play in the games this fall. So I have to rank them higher than the guys that I know are redshirting. I'm just not convinced which one of the 2 are going to be the actual second team right tackle. And isn't it funny? It's fun for us fans, you guys that listen to the podcast every day, y'all know the program extremely well. That's why you listen to daily podcasts about Alabama football. We focus on battles for positions in fall camp and spring practice and who's going to be the quarterback, what's the rotation at running back going to look like, who's going to win the inside linebacker job next to Deontay Lawson. There's battles all over the place, and a real interesting one, Luke, is this one. Who's going to be the second team right tackle? Because in the spring it flip-flopped. At first it was Wilkin Formby. On A Day it was Miles McVay. So this fall, Miles McVay or Wilkin Formby. Again, it doesn't affect the starting lineup. Probably not going to affect the outcome of the games. But it is an interesting battle. And while it doesn't mean a ton for 2023, it will mean quite a bit for 2024 because Alabama's going to lose their starting right tackle to the NFL draft and J.C. Latham. I think we all know Latham is highly likely to be 3 and done. So we'll need a new right tackle in 2024. Whoever wins the number 2 job this fall will at least have a leg up on that competition when it starts next spring.
So in the end, do you feel like it's going to be Wilkin Formby will get some minutes this year?
I think if he wins the number 2 job, he definitely will. If he doesn't win the number 2 job, I think he'll redshirt. So I really think Miles McVay and Wilkin Formby are going to duke it out. Winner will play this fall in a backup role, redshirt. Does that mean in 2024, when they're competing for the starting spot at right tackle, that whoever played is going to win the spot next fall. Not necessarily. I would just think they have an advantage.
Yeah. I feel good about the offensive line, but it's not going to shock me if some of these newcomers come in and make a move. I mean, I feel good about it from the sense of if there were no Caden Proctor, Wilkin Formby, Miles McVay coming in, I would feel pretty good about the offensive line. But those guys are coming in, and it gives me a lot more hope because I feel like one or two, if not all three of those guys will get some minutes this year.
Well, Proctor, we're not going to be talking about Caden Proctor on this countdown for another 30 spots or more because I think Caden Proctor is either going to be a starter or he is going to be a major threat to start all season long and is a lock to play. I'm even wondering if we might do what we did with Tyler Booker last year, and Caden Proctor sort of becomes a third tackle that plays, in a rotational basis like they did with Booker. That wouldn't shock me. I mean, Proctor's made a move towards the starting lineup, and he was really good on A-Day. Formby and Miles McVay are more just competing to be the backup right tackle. I do think Olas is going to redshirt. We've already covered him. We've already covered Rock Montgomery. I think those two are more traditional redshirts. Just, hey, they're both promising. They both could be in the mix in 2024, but they're a little bit behind the other freshmen, certainly Proctor, who's just one of those Saban freaks, it appears.
Once again, Jimmy and I want to thank everybody who have recently signed up. We are going to say again, Sarah McLaughlin style, if you would, please sign up for our podcast and register or subscribe or whatever it is you do. We're only 2 away from 5,000 subscribers now, and it really touches our heart. But honestly, I didn't want to say this, but we've been told that if we can't get to 5,000, they're going to break our thumbs. So if you would please help us keep our thumbs. Thank you. I do love these new apps where I can just pull up a song I like, because when we get to 5,000, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm playing Celebration.
Celebration. Oh, that's the ticket.
That's the tradition. We did Celebration like when we hit like 100 subscribers. I remember that.
I remember celebrating far less in the early days of this show.
I celebrate far less literally every single day. So, all right, that's going to do it. Hey, everybody have a great Memorial Day out there. I know it's Sunday. I mean, seriously, I hadn't showered today. I'm at the beach. I got a bunch of kids. Already played putt-putt. Already been to the arcade, done all these things today. And now I've got to run out to the beach. I want all you guys to have a wonderful Memorial Day. Let's all pull Alabama through. I'm going to put that game on my phone while I'm down at the beach. And then we got the selection show, right? Is that tomorrow for baseball?
The selection show is Monday at 11 a.m. Central. However, the NCAA is going to announce the 16 regional hosts by tweet tonight. So Alabama will find out Sunday night if they are hosting, which
Surely
is the
will be hosting.
I believe they will. My projection is yes, they will be a host. But if they're 13 or 14 as the current projection, obviously they're not easily in. So it is reasonable to hold your breath. But yes, I believe they will.
All right, that's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow at some point. I'm going to be driving back from the beach, and Jimmy and I will figure it out. So I can't promise it'll be in the morning, but it'll be sometime. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.